Would you say you praise God when your plans don't work? If you like to hear people's story and be encouraged about the ways God is working in their life, you have found a home here at the Parable Podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Danielle Zapchenk, and joining me today is writer and podcaster Cheryl Davis, who encourages us to see God's bigger plan.
People don't see failed plans as a loss, but they are. We tend to shove our emotions down too much, and we never actually heal from things. Sometimes the things that we see as bad are the setup for some of God's biggest blessings. The love of God was evident because of our failed plans, not because we succeeded, but because we fail.
Here's my conversation with Cheryl Davis. Thrilled to introduce you to Cheryl Davis. Cheryl was connected with me through my friend Greg Buffkin. There's plenty of episodes that I've done with Greg. So Cheryl, I'm always excited to meet a new friend. Welcome to the Parable Podcast.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, Greg is an awesome guy.
He is. So I always love to ask just some fun questions to get to know my guests since we are new friends. If you could go back in time to your younger self, what advice would you tell her?
Hold plans loosely.
True. Yeah. Is there something that specifically comes to mind for that?
Oh, pretty much the last 9 years.
That's good. Yeah, I would say that would be a similarity with my story as well. I just like to control. I like to have things in order, scheduled. And, when you bring anyone else besides yourself into the mix, things happen. So I totally understand. Would you rather, if you could have a hug, praise, or done something nice for you? It's kind of like those love languages. What would that be?
Well, that's hard because my top two are words of affirmation and physical touch. So that's really hard.
Yeah. I love to think about that, just day to day when I'm with other people, especially when you're down, you're like, what do I actually need from? And it's just like, can you just fold that laundry for me? That would be great.
It does vary depending on how empty those tanks are.
Yes. And Cheryl, is there anything about yourself that I hope this piece of me never changes?
How much I love my family.
That's great. Cheryl, because we're just getting to know each other, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about where you live, what you're passionate about?
I live in northwestern Montana, so there's lots of mountains, and we're just getting cold, so that's awesome. We're going to get some snow soon, and we're all excited about that because we love snow. Everyone else doesn't, but my family does. I've been married for 9 years with my husband. We have 2 little girls, and we both actually work in ministry. I also am the author of Mom Life Devotions blog, and I'm also a podcast host as of July. So that's been a really fun adventure that God has had me on.
Congrats. That's so good. When we were talking on the phone the other week, you had mentioned you were headed to the food bank. Do you help there? You support that?
I'm the administrator for our food bank. So Amazing. I'm the administrator. My dad is actually the director. So for 10 years, he was my boss, and now I get to be his.
I love that. What's something that you feel like God has taught you, whether in ministry or working within the food bank over the last couple of years, that he's really spoken to you?
It's easy to love people when you're face to face. Yeah. When you have the distance between you and people, with whether it's social media or just plain isolation, it's really easy to just see people's flaws. But when you're face to face, you're looking somebody in the eye, you're talking to them, they're real. And it's a lot easier to love people when you're actually present versus when you're not, when you're just looking at that book cover.
That is so good. I think proximity really does matter when either people think about ministry or just any kind of justice social work. There is an overall umbrella look into it of oh yes, we would like to support this, but it really does change even on the opposite end when people are oh, I don't believe in this cause or that cause. When you have a friend and who is struggling for food or a single mom who is not getting child support, that really changes the game of how, okay, now I have skin in the game, and just that understanding of okay, now I can understand understand the empathy side of it and how someone can actually see life change out of that. So that's beautiful. I'm so glad you have that passion and that mindset as you head into in ministry. Cheryl, the whole Parable podcast is really about our own stories. I know we have so many in our life, and I know you have one specifically for us today. So I'd love for you to share that with us.
So originally, this came from last year during hunting season. My husband and I, we both grew up hunting. That's where we actually get most of our meat because it's a form that my husband can actually eat because he's got some health issues. But when I wrote it, I was just shaking my head because I'm like, really, God? Yeah, really? And I originally called it the bad and the blessing because it's a little hard to recognize the blessing sometimes when everything is sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
So last year I drew a special tag for a cow, which is a female elk. They're a lot more plentiful, typically easier to get, and they provide several 100 pounds of meat, which is awesome. It'll get us through the year most of the time. And I had actually managed to get out and hunt on my own, which is rare with a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I guess she was 4 then, a 1 and a 4-year-old. It's a rare event, but I'd been able to get out and I hadn't seen any elk on public property, which is where I was able to hunt. I didn't have any landowners. I had permission to hunt on their property. And my parents ended up volunteering to take our kids for one day to give my husband and I a chance to go out together, one last try to get an elk before the end of the season. And I was pretty excited. For one, it's time alone with my husband with no kids. Also a rare event. So we got up early. So it's like 4 a.m. So it's dark because we have a little bit of a drive. We're headed there. There's elk crossing the road on private, but this is a good sign. We're seeing elk. It's not even daylight yet. And we keep heading there. And then my husband starts to get car sick and he's driving. He never gets car sick while he's driving. He does when I drive, but not when he's doing it. So we have to take a minute to let his stomach calm down, and we keep going to where we wanted to hunt, and there's a car parked there. It's considered pretty bad etiquette to walk in on somebody who's already there because you can completely ruin their hunt and they'll end up not getting anything if there are animals present. So we go to our plan B, and he just starts getting worse. We finally get there, and there's 2 cars parked in that spot. Okay. We would hope to be about a mile in by then, cozied up around a fire. That wasn't happening. So we turned around and headed to plan C. And we ended up having to stop again. Eric is my husband. He needed to just lay back, close his eyes, rest, try to get everything to calm down. And we start to go to plan C. And we make it to public property. And I'm like, okay, may as well look out the window. The first elk we saw that day was through the window, so maybe we'll see another one. And I look up on the hill, and there's this lone cow. And that's not always very common to see a lone cow. It's not. And I was like, Henny, there's an elk. So he stopped. I got out. I got off the road, and I was able to get her. Now, my husband has health issues. He can't lift things. I have a broken back. I can't lift a lot. And cows weigh about 600 pounds.
Wow.
She was,
all right.
So go up there, confirm that she's dead. My husband comes up. We get her taken care of because there's some extra weight and entrails you can remove. But she's uphill. So we managed to push and drag this elk downhill and get her into the truck, which I've hunted all my life and I'm in my 30s. And that's happened a handful of times. It doesn't happen very often. So we get her loaded and we continue driving on because we still have some tags we could fill for deer. And we get to plan C, and there was a car parked there. So all 3 of our spots were actually taken. We couldn't have even gone to that. But it floored me that every stop that we made upset our plans. And it's so hard to hold loosely as a type A planner to my plans. And we would have been very grateful for the time with just the 2 of us, even though it's a little harder to be grateful when one's not feeling well. But because of the bad things that happened, like my husband kept getting sick, God had a bigger plan. He had a blessing that we wouldn't have been able to get if our plans had worked out. We probably wouldn't have gotten anything, let alone something that we could load ourselves as 2 very broken people. So we found ourselves just praising God that our plans had not worked.
That's so good. Praising God that your plans had not worked. Okay. Gosh, that's so good.
Just thinking back on like my life, especially since I married my husband, God's blessings and provision almost never look like what I think that they should. Life has thus far not happened how I want it to, but that has never meant that God's hand isn't in it. When I look back, it's usually not in the moment, but when I look back, I see a lot of good and purpose in events and circumstances that I and any sane person would probably consider bad, because God is always in the thick of life with us. We don't always notice though until we're looking back. I love Romans 8:28. That's just like the theme verse right now. He works all things for the good of those who love him.
Wow. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I think anyone, whether you are a hunter or not, can recognize we work so hard for the plans or the ideas that we thought were going to come to fruition or were going to work out so perfectly, and then they don't. Can you explain to me, I just want to make sure, because I am not a hunter, when you say that you have a tag, like, does everyone only get like so many things that you're allowed to hunt? Is that what you mean by that?
Every state is different. And for us, we have what's called an over-the-counter tag. Residents can just buy a standard amount of tags, or they have to apply. There's a fee. Sometimes it's refundable, sometimes it's not. Mm-hmm. So my general tag was for a bull, which is a lot harder to get, but there was a special draw for this cow tag. So I had to apply and draw it against whatever odds there were that year.
And also then when you said the word cow, and I'm like, wait, how was a cow involved in this? But I'm like, I get it now.
I'm sorry, cow elk.
That's okay. Makes sense. I'm sure anyone else who's just like Danielle, like, just get with the program. But
oh no,
I get it.
When you're in something, you use language and slang that most people don't get. You just forget that they don't get it.
Yeah, it makes sense now. I would love to know, like, okay, so you said you have a broken back. What happened there? And then I'm just be curious, like, if your husband was sick, how did you guys get that thing into your car? I'm just like, oh my gosh, 600 pounds. Like, I helped lift a washing machine once and I thought I was amazing. So how did you do this?
Okay, so I have what's called spondylolisthesis, which means at one point in time, I broke my back. I have no memory of this. Studies show that most likely it happened in early development, and it just never appeared until 2 years ago when we found it. But what that means is that your discs are one on top of the other, and one is slipping forward, and it slowly pinches off your spinal cord. I just have to be aware of it, be very careful, and do a lot of PT to try to keep my core stabilized and strengthened. Yeah. So that's what that is. God created gravity for a reason. Because she was on the uphill side, our truck was on the downhill side. So that doesn't mean it was easy, because there's brush and there's trees and there's stumps, but God also made adrenaline, which also helps. So we just had to just grab legs and drag where we could and get her going and hope she didn't hit a tree. We were able to get her stopped before she got to the road, the embankment, so we could back the truck up and angle it to where we could just shove her into it. So we were able to do that because we didn't have to lift.
And how long, you said, she's 600 pounds. Once she's processed, like, how much food does that provide you guys?
That can provide, depending on the size of the elk, it can provide anywhere from 200 to 300 typically. There's a lot of weight in liquid and bone and hide and intestines and things like that. So, but still, that's a lot of meat. We actually process it ourselves, so.
Oh my gosh, you guys are like, you need your own like TV show out there. Like, this is amazing. I was very interested to just come and watch this whole process. I know some people are kind of probably grossed out, but I'm like, this is so interesting to me.
It's not for everybody, and that's okay. You're welcome to come by. It's a flight. You'd be welcome to come and watch. It's hunting season now.
Oh, I mean, that is like the exciting part about podcasting is you get to like meet people from around the country, around the globe sometimes. And yeah, there's certain things people do. And I'm just like, I would be down for this just to see, just to get that experience.
We get so focused on our own little worlds that you forget about other people and other cultures. And the things considered normal.
Yeah.
Not here.
Cheryl, in that moment when you guys were going from plan A, because it's one thing when you are so excited about something, maybe you've been planning for a while and obviously you guys had your tags. You knew that the season was, you only a short window here. And so you're like, okay, great. I get to be with my husband. This is awesome. Plan A doesn't work. Plan B doesn't work. And then eventually you did find out that plan C didn't work. How are you when you're like walking, whether through it was that time or other times when you're just like nothing seems to work? Is your attitude frustrated? Do you feel like, okay, God, I'm just going to give it over to you? Or is it a mix of both?
So personally, it's not necessarily either of those things. What I have found, life is not working out anywhere like we planned. My husband got suddenly ill 5 years ago, steadily got worse. So life shifted dramatically. And the thing that we find the hardest to battle is actually contentment, being content with our situation. I mean, we know that God's hand is in this. We know that God's hand was in all of our spots being taken. But remembering that is the hard part. And remembering that, okay, even though it feels like we're stuck sometimes, God still has a reason for it. There's a purpose. There's a plan. It's up to us to trust him, but it doesn't make it any easier. It's just, that's for us what we have to battle is contentment.
For myself, Cheryl, like the end of May, I broke my foot on vacation. And at the same time, I was training to do a hike across the Grand Canyon with like our friend's nonprofit. I am not like a super athletic person. So I was so excited about this is going to be amazing. And I had started, now here we are. Now I've broken it and I didn't even know, like the doctor was like, oh, you broke this. I thought it had a sprain. It's just like, woman's mindset of like, oh yeah, I'll just push through. It's fine.
You said the guys are the only ones who do that.
Yes. So we have the whole journey of healing, which as you know, for your back, healing is a super long process. So there's that. And then just pieces. Like the other day I was like walking through town and I was crying. Anyone who saw me was like, that lady's just having she must be having a situation. Just because I'm like, I am so frustrated and I feel so dumb for keep asking for the same thing over and over. And it's frustrating. And I'm like, I know your plan is better. So when you said the words praising God that your plans didn't work, we're going to try. We've adjusted some of our plans, but yeah, that is so hard to praise God when your plans don't work. What encouragement, Cheryl, would you give to somebody who feels that feeling when you're like, how do I praise you when this just feels like it sucks?
Well, it's hard. And it's a couple of things. It's important to grieve. It's important to grieve the loss. People don't see changes like that or failed plans as a loss, but they are. And it's okay to fall apart and be a puddle of tears while you're walking because we tend to shove our emotions down too much and we never actually heal from things. Sometimes the things that we see as bad are the setup for some of God's biggest blessings. For me, on like that elk hunt, the love of God was evident because of our failed plans, not because we succeeded, but because we failed. And it's trying to have that objective view of, okay, if I wasn't in the middle of this, is there something that God's trying to teach me? Is there a purpose? Now you can at least relate to people who have a broken foot now.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I was trying to think of the verses that I've got. 2 Corinthians 4:16-18. That is why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on the things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. That's what troubles and hardships and failed plans produce in us, is something that has eternal value. I mean, there's a whole lot that's more comfortable to have in the now when our plans succeed and we have success and things work out exactly how we want. But eternally, at this point in my life, I would say 9 times out of 10, those things are worthless and they're the chaff that needs burned away, not the thing that actually produces value in our lives.
Yeah, that's so good. I think too, the other part that you'd said of just like remembering, what God has done. I think that's so easy for us to forget what he's done in the past and just like who he is as God. Like he can do all things. And, we put that pressure on ourselves of like, okay, I can do it. I can do it myself. Or sometimes for me too, it's just like, this feels like something I can do. So when I really need your help, then I will come to you. And so I just have to release that over and over. That's so good, Cheryl. Tell me a little bit. You had said you started a podcast. Tell me what that is about. And then also what kind of like set you into the idea to do that.
Well, it's called Time for Mom, and it's building faith in the trenches of motherhood. What started it was just over a year ago, I'd kind of hit a bottom in where I was noticing that I had distanced myself from God, and I was seeing things come out in me because I had nothing left to give other than my own flesh, and my flesh is pretty nasty sometimes. So I'd been praying about, okay, what on earth do I do? And I've been a writer for 20 years. And I had someone ask me, well, have you ever thought that you were supposed to write fiction, or because that's what I wrote, or could God want you to write something else? I'm like, why would you even ask that? Of course I'm supposed to write fiction. But I prayed about it, and the answer was not fiction. The answer was devotionals, but specific things that I've learned through motherhood, because motherhood gives you a special perspective on how God views us that I don't think you can get any other way than by having children. Yeah. So I started writing, and I started a Substack called Mom Life Devotions, and that's been a year now, over a year. And I'd had people say, hey, no, this would be great, but I don't have the time to read it. I wonder if you could make it to where you can listen to it. I'm like, okay. And then God just started, he'd planted a seed on doing a podcast, and then doors started to open, and lo and behold, now I have a podcast. It's all about building up moms and encouraging moms and helping them also see the experiences that they have through a different lens of, for one that I have coming out is on sewing, because I like to sew and I upcycle. And to upcycle something, you have to rip it apart and then remake it. And when I was doing that, I just had this picture of me in God's hands of, you have to be undone to be made new. And that's what these journeys are about. It's about being undone, being made into a new creation, ready for heaven and an eternity with our Savior.
I love what you said, on being undone to be made new. A friend just sent me a text this morning about a portion of a podcast, and it was about motherhood and parenting, to have this idea and this perspective of like, as an 80-year-old, you look back and you woke up as like your 32-year-old self. And it was really meaningful to see, when we feel like we're in the trenches, it feels so hard, so dark. And you're just like, I just need somebody to like kind of reach back saying like, you know what? I have been there too. And we all have these moments of motherhood or whatever season it is in your life that says, this is where we've learned. This is where we've grown. How old are your kids now?
They are 2 and 5.
Gosh, I think back, our kids are 12 and 15. I've loved every season of motherhood. I really enjoy it right now because they can have a conversation. But like when I get to be with my friends' kids that are 2 and 5, like I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did this even happen? How did you get from this space? But I do remember the days of motherhood that just feel long, and it feels uninspiring. It feels like, am I even doing anything with my life? So I applaud you, Cheryl, for having that sense of like speaking to God and feeling the need to pivot from fiction into this place where you can reach moms at a point where they just need 5 minutes to listen to a podcast just to be reminded like they are enough, they are seen, and God just really wants to work in them despite whatever the trench may look like for them. So I hope that this has been a fun season those last 3 months, because I know a podcast can be a hard thing to launch.
It has been a lot. It has been so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you could speak to the woman that is listening to your podcast, the mom that maybe that was you a couple of years ago, what would be your words to her?
The biggest thing that I can think about is it's easy to neglect yourself because everybody seems to be dependent on you. But if you just neglect yourself, even if it's that time with Jesus, eventually you'll have nothing left to give. And you're not actually serving your family by doing that. You need to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. You need time to just be yourself so that you can serve your family well.
Well, Cheryl, if people wanted to connect with you or learn more about your writing or your podcast, how can they do that?
They can find me on Substack at should be able to look up Not Mom Life Devotions, and there'll be links in the show notes. My podcast is called Time for Mom, and it is on all the platforms I can find. Then I also have a Facebook group called Biblical Encouragement for Christian Moms if they wanted to connect there.
Perfect. Well, we'll put all of Cheryl's information in today's show notes. Cheryl, thank you so much for explaining hunting to me and really just sharing your story and your wisdom. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me on and the opportunity. I love sharing stories because, like you said, there's so many lessons in the stories, and there's stories everywhere. We just need to take the time to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hope Cheryl's story was a gentle reminder for you today. If you want to connect with Cheryl, simply visit daniellezapchenk.com for details. And here are 2 reflection questions for our time with Cheryl. Number 1, maybe you are not going on an actual hunt, but you can take a moment today to be more mindful and hunt for the ways God has worked through your last week and is still working today. Number 2, how can you grieve about the plans that didn't work and how expectations were not met, and take that and surrender that to the Lord? If there's something in Cheryl's story that resonated with you, could you do me a favor and share this with a friend who may be going through a season of plans that are not working? Maybe it's a new mom who feels overwhelmed or just needs to be reminded that they are seen. This episode was edited by my lovely husband, Eric Zapchenk, and we hope you are encouraged to think about your own story. Remember, your parable showcases how we can see God's purpose and goodness in our life. We'll see you back again next week on the Parable Podcast.